They called it justice, standing in front of the entire pack, in chains, while the man who swore to protect me looked through me like I was nothing. My mate, my Alpha Kale. He didn't just banish me, he rejected me, and then he sent me into Blackwood Forest, alone, to die. But I didn't die. I was found. By a pack the world had forgotten, by an alpha named Darius, who saw something in me that I couldn't yet see in myself. And then one night, beneath an ancient silver tree, older than any law, my wolf woke up. Not the wolf they told me I was. Something older, something they had been afraid of for 500 years. A royal wolf. 5 years passed, and then Kale came back with an army. But the girl he banished was gone. What he found instead was her queen. The forest remained silent long after Iron Fang disappeared. Even the wind seemed to hesitate between the towering Blackwood trees. For several moments, no one spoke. Every wolf present had felt it. Something had shifted tonight. Not just the balance between two packs, but something older, something far deeper. Darius finally broke the silence. "Well," he said lightly, "that was dramatic." A few of the forgotten wolves chuckled quietly, but most of them were watching me. Not with suspicion, not with fear, with expectation. It made my chest tighten. I wasn't used to wolves looking at me like that. Back in Iron Fang, I had always been respected, but rarely truly seen. Here it was different. Here they were studying me like I mattered, like I was important to their future. Mira stepped beside me. "You handled that well? I almost started a war. You prevented one." I glanced toward the dark forest where Kale had disappeared. "He'll come back." Darius shrugged. "Of course he will. And next time he won't come with 30 wolves. No. Next time he'll bring the council." The word sent a ripple through the clearing. Everyone here understood what that meant. The Alpha Council ruled the Northern Territories. 6 of the strongest packs united under ancient law. If they declared Blackwood a threat, they wouldn't come with scouts. They would come with armies. I exhaled slowly. "So what happens now?" Darius studied me carefully. "That depends on you." I frowned. "You keep saying that because it's true." He gestured toward the glowing heart tree behind us. "Your awakening has started." But it isn't complete. I could still feel the power inside me, restless, expanding. My wolf paced slowly through my mind like a queen surveying her land. "What happens when it finishes?" Darius answered simply. "You become what you were born to be." I folded my arms. "And what exactly is that?" His scarred lips curved faintly. "The ruler of Blackwood." The word ruler still felt strange, heavy, but my wolf reacted differently. She liked it. Before I could respond, Mira spoke. "The council won't wait long. They'll start gathering allies." "Good," Darius replied. "Let them." Mira raised an eyebrow. "You're unusually calm about the possibility of war." Darius shrugged. "We've been preparing for it for 500 years. That sentence settled over the clearing like a storm cloud. 500 years. The forgotten wolves had spent centuries waiting for this moment, waiting for the heir to return, waiting for their chance to step out of the shadows. And now that moment had finally arrived. Darius turned toward the settlement. "Everyone get some rest." His voice carried the quiet authority of an alpha. "We'll regroup at dawn." The wolves began to disperse, but many of them glanced back at me as they left, curious, hopeful. Mira lingered beside us. "You should stay near the heart tree tonight." She looked at me gently. "It will help stabilize your wolf." I nodded slowly. Thank you. She gave a small smile before heading back toward the settlement. Soon the clearing was quiet again. Only Darius and I remained beneath the enormous silver tree. The glow from its bark painted the ground in pale moonlight. I stared up into its endless branches. Everything changed tonight, I murmured. Yes. And there's no going back. No, I sighed. That's comforting. Darius chuckled softly. You'll adjust. I didn't even know my wolf existed yesterday. And now? I closed my eyes briefly. Inside my mind, the massive silver wolf lifted her head. Power radiated from her, like sunlight through storm clouds. Now she feels like a storm waiting to break. Darius nodded slowly. That sounds about right. I opened my eyes again. What happens tomorrow? Training. My shoulders sagged slightly. I was afraid you'd say that. You'll need it. Because of the council? Because of yourself. He stepped closer to the heart tree. For the first time in centuries, the royal wolf has awakened. That kind of power can destroy you if you don't learn to control it. I looked down at my hands. They were trembling slightly. Not from fear, from energy. Great. Don't worry, he said calmly. You won't face it alone. The forest rustled quietly around us. Somewhere in the distance, a Blackwood wolf howled softly. A signal. The pack was settling for the night, but sleep felt impossible. My mind kept replaying everything that had happened. Kale's face when he saw me, the shock, the regret, and the realization that he had made the worst mistake of his life. Darius suddenly spoke again. You're still thinking about him. It wasn't a question. I sighed. It's complicated. Yes. But it will become clearer with time. I leaned against the massive roots of the heart tree. Why did he reject me? Darius considered the question carefully. Because someone made him believe you betrayed him. My head snapped up. You think I was framed? I know you were. The certainty in his voice sent a chill down my spine. Who would do that? That's something we'll discover. I stared into the dark forest. For the first time since the accusation, anger stirred inside me. Not the sharp pain of betrayal. Something colder. Someone had destroyed my life. Someone had manipulated my mate. And someone had almost gotten me killed. My wolf growled softly inside my mind. Queen. Yes, I whispered. Queen. If that was what I was becoming, then I would find the truth. And when I did, the person responsible would regret it. The silver glow of the heart tree pulsed softly above us. Time began to move again. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. And slowly, something remarkable happened inside Blackwood Forest. The exiled wolf who had stumbled into the forest, broken and alone, began to change. Darius trained me relentlessly. At first I could barely control my wolf's power. Shifting was chaotic. My senses overwhelmed me. I remember the first time I fully shifted. Not the terrified half-shift from that first night. The real one. It was 3 weeks after my arrival. The pain was extraordinary. Bones cracking in directions they had never moved before. My wolf forcing her way out, like something that had been caged for years. I collapsed in the snow when it was over, shaking, gasping. And Darius stood over me with his arms crossed. Good, he said simply. Do it again. The second year was harder than the first. My wolf grew stronger, faster than my mind could manage her. There was a night in deep winter when I lost control completely. I shifted mid-sleep and didn't come back for 3 days. When I finally returned to human form, I was standing at the edge of the ancient cliff above the eastern valley, snow in my fur, with no memory of how I'd gotten there. Darius found me at dawn. He didn't ask what happened. He simply sat beside me on the frozen rock until my hands stopped shaking. "The wolf tests the queen," he said quietly. "The queen has to pass." By the third year, something shifted between me and the pack. I didn't notice it at first. It was small things. The way the younger wolves stepped aside when I walked through the training yard. The way Mira stopped asking Darius for permission and started looking to me instead. And then one morning, a grizzled old warrior named Brack, who had fought under Darius for 30 years and spoken to no one above a grunt, stopped in front of me and bowed his head. Not to Darius, to me. "Alpha," he said simply, and walked on. I didn't tell Darius about it for 2 days. When I finally did, he smiled in a way I had never seen before. "Brack has bowed to no one in 30 years, he said. Not even me. The forgotten wolves were patient teachers. They had waited centuries for their queen. They weren't about to rush her. Months passed, then years. 5 winters came and went in Blackwood Forest. 5 years of training, 5 years of rebuilding, 5 years of uncovering the truth about the pack that had betrayed me. By the time the 5th winter ended, the broken girl Ironfang had banished no longer existed. In her place stood something far more dangerous, the alpha of the forgotten wolves, and far beyond the ancient forest. Alpha Kale had spent those same 5 years searching for answers, because every night his wolf whispered the same haunting truth. The mate he had rejected had become the Queen of Blackwood. Snow fell softly across Blackwood Forest. 5 winters had passed since the night Ironfang cast me out. 5 winters since I walked into the forest, expecting to die. The girl who had stumbled through these woods that night barely existed anymore. Time had burned her away, forged something stronger in her place. I stood at the edge of the training grounds, watching the wolves of Blackwood move across the clearing below. 2 warriors circled each other in wolf form, their paws kicking up powdery snow as they lunged and dodged beneath the pale winter sun. Their movements were fast, precise, controlled, exactly the way Darius had trained them, and exactly the way he had trained me. A faint smile tugged at my lips. 5 years ago, I had barely been able to control my wolf's senses. Now my wolf and I moved like one mind. Queen. The word echoed calmly through my thoughts. I leaned against the wooden railing surrounding the training platform. Below, Mira barked a sharp command. Again! The 2 wolves sprang apart before charging at each other once more. Their movements were cleaner this time, more disciplined. Mira noticed me watching and lifted her chin slightly. "Planning to join us today, Alpha?" A few wolves nearby chuckled quietly. I pushed away from the railing. Maybe. The title still sounded strange sometimes. Alpha. But the wolves of Blackwood had begun using it long before I felt ready for it. At first I resisted. Then I realized something important. They weren't giving me the title because they had to. They were giving it because they believed in it. And belief carried power. I jumped lightly from the platform, landing in the snow below. The warriors immediately gave me space. Not out of fear, out of respect. Mira crossed her arms. "You're late." I was thinking. "That's always dangerous." I smirked. "You trained me too well." One of the younger wolves nearby laughed, before quickly pretending he hadn't. Mira tossed me a practice spear. "Then prove it." I caught it easily. Across the clearing, a massive black wolf watched from the shadows. Darius. Even after 5 years, his presence still dominated the space around him. He shifted smoothly into human form as he approached. "You're getting predictable," he said. "That's rich coming from someone who's been beating me in training for half a decade." "That's because you keep trying to overpower me. Isn't that the point?" "No," he replied calmly. "The point is control." He stepped into the center of the clearing. "Show me what you've learned." The wolves gathered around us. Training sessions between Darius and I had become a regular spectacle, not because they expected me to win, but because they enjoyed watching me try. I twirled the spear once before settling into position. "Try not to embarrass yourself," Mira called from the sidelines. I lunged forward. Darius moved instantly, too fast. He slipped past the strike and tapped the back of my shoulder lightly. Too slow. I spun, sweeping the spear low. He jumped over it easily. Too obvious. I shifted suddenly. Bones cracked. Muscles expanded. Within seconds, my massive silver wolf stood in the clearing. Gasps rippled through the watching wolves. Even after 5 years, my wolf form still shocked them. Royal wolves were larger than ordinary ones, stronger. My silver fur gleamed beneath the winter sun. Darius grinned. Better. He shifted too. His enormous black wolf landed in the snow across from me. The clearing fell silent. 2 alphas facing each other. The tension crackled through the air. I lunged. This time my strike was faster, sharper. Darius barely dodged it. His massive body twisted as he countered, but I was already moving. 5 years of training had burned his lessons into my muscles. We clashed again and again. Snow exploded around us as our wolves collided, power against power, speed against experience. The watching pack howled their approval. Finally, Darius leapt back. His wolf studied me carefully. Then he shifted back to human form. Good. The words surprised everyone, including me. "You didn't knock me down this time," I said. "That's progress." The wolves laughed. Mira approached, brushing snow from her coat. "Not bad." I shifted back as well. The cold air bit against my skin, but I barely noticed any more. My senses were sharper now, stronger, alive. Darius looked toward the distant forest. "Scouts returned this morning." My attention sharpened instantly. And they spotted Iron Fang patrols along the eastern border. Mira frowned. "They're still watching us?" "For 5 years." The statement hung in the cold air. Iron Fang had never stopped. Ever since that night, Kyle had kept wolves watching the forest. Not attacking, not invading, just watching, waiting. I stared into the trees beyond the clearing. "Do you think he knows?" "Knows what?" Darius met my gaze calmly. My wolf stirred. "That I became alpha." "Yes." Mira folded her arms. "He's been careful. Too careful. Which means he's planning something." Darius nodded slightly. "I agree." Snow continued falling softly around us. 5 years had passed. Blackwood had grown stronger. The forgotten wolves had rebuilt their numbers. But the northern territories had also changed. The Alpha Council had begun moving pieces quietly, shifting alliances, strengthening borders, preparing. War had not come yet, but everyone could feel it approaching, like thunder, waiting beyond the mountains. I turned toward Darius. If the council attacks, they won't win. His confidence was absolute, but Mira spoke quietly. Winning isn't the same as surviving. Silence followed. The wolves around us understood that truth too well. 500 years ago, their bloodline had nearly vanished. None of them wanted to see that happen again. I looked out across the forest that had become my home. The ancient trees, the wolves who trusted me, the pack that had chosen me when my own pack had thrown me away. My wolf lifted her head proudly. Queen. Yes, I whispered softly. Queen. And if the Alpha Council wanted to test that claim, then they were going to discover something very important. Blackwood was no longer hiding, and its queen was ready. The warning came just before dusk. One of the outer scouts burst through the tree line, breath fogging in the cold air as he shifted mid-stride. Alpha! Every wolf in the training yard turned instantly. The urgency in his voice sent a ripple of tension through the pack. I stepped forward. What happened? The young scout struggled to catch his breath. Council banners. Silence fell across the clearing. Darius straightened slowly. How many? 3 packs. A low murmur spread through the watching wolves. 3 council packs moving together meant only one thing. This wasn't a patrol. It was a declaration. Mira stepped beside me. Which packs? Stoneclaw, Red Hollow, and... He hesitated. My chest tightened. And Iron Fang. The name settled heavily over the clearing. Even after 5 years, it still carried weight. Darius's expression hardened slightly. Numbers? At least 200 wolves. A sharp whistle escaped Mira. That's not a warning force. No, Darius said calmly. It's an invasion. The scout nodded. They're camping just outside Blackwood territory. Waiting. Waiting for what? One of the warriors asked. Darius glanced toward the dark forest beyond the clearing. For permission. From the council? No. His glowing gaze shifted to me. From their alphas. The wolves began gathering around us. Warriors, hunters, scouts. Everyone understood the meaning behind the report. 5 years of quiet preparation had finally reached its breaking point. The Alpha Council had come for Blackwood. Mira exhaled slowly. Well, that took longer than I expected. Darius crossed his arms. They needed time to build the narrative. I frowned slightly. What narrative? That Blackwood is a threat to the balance of the Northern Territories. And that I'm the threat, I said. Yes. The wolves around us stiffened. Their loyalty radiated clearly. No one here questioned who I was or what I had become. But the Alpha Council would. Darius turned toward the warriors. Double the patrols along the eastern and southern borders. Several wolves nodded and immediately shifted, disappearing into the forest. Mira leaned closer to me. This isn't just about territory. I know. They're coming for you. I know that too. She studied my face carefully. You're calmer than I expected. I looked toward the distant tree line where the council forces waited. I've had 5 years to think about this moment. Darius tilted his head slightly. And what did you decide? That running won't solve anything. My wolf stirred in agreement. Queen. Darius's expression softened with approval. Good answer. The wind rustled through the Blackwood branches above us. The forest itself seemed restless, alive, watching. Then another scout arrived. This one moved more cautiously. His gaze flicked between Darius and me. Alpha. There's more. Darius raised an eyebrow. Go on. They sent a messenger. The clearing went still again. A messenger? Mira repeated. Yes. From which pack? The scout swallowed. Iron Fang. My pulse skipped. Who? Beta Rowan. That name hit harder than Kale's. Rowan had been Kyle's closest friend, his most trusted advisor, and the man who had announced my treason 5 years ago. Darius watched me carefully. You know him? Yes. And if Rowan is here... My voice trailed off. Darius finished the thought. Then Kale is here too. The scout nodded slowly. He is. A ripple of tension moved through the pack. Mira glanced toward the forest. Should we let the messenger through? Darius looked at me. This concerns you. I inhaled slowly. The cold air filled my lungs. 5 years. 5 years since I last stood face to face with the wolves who destroyed my life. My wolf rose inside me, calm, powerful. Queen. Yes, I said quietly. Let him come. The scout nodded and vanished back into the trees. Mira folded her arms. This should be interesting. Darius chuckled softly. That's one word for it. The clearing slowly emptied as warriors returned to their posts. Within minutes, only a handful of us remained. Darius, Mira, and me. The silence stretched. Snow continued falling in slow, quiet flakes. Then footsteps approached through the forest, heavy, purposeful. Several wolves emerged from the shadows, Iron Fang warriors. They stopped at the edge of the clearing, and between them stepped a familiar figure, Rowan. His dark hair was longer than I remembered, his face more lined, but his sharp eyes were exactly the same. For a moment, he simply stared at me. Shock flickered across his expression. Lyra. The sound of my name carried years of history with it. I remained still. Hello, Rowan. His gaze traveled slowly over the clearing, the warriors, the settlement, the heart tree glowing faintly behind us. Understanding dawned slowly in his eyes. So it's true. Darius spoke calmly. You have a message. Rowan nodded. His posture straightened slightly. Alpha Kale sends his regards. Darius smiled faintly. I'm sure he does. Rowan's eyes returned to me. He also sent a warning. Let me guess, Mira muttered. Leave Blackwood or die. Rowan ignored her. The Alpha Council has declared Blackwood a rogue territory. Darius snorted. That's adorable, Rowan continued firmly. If you do not surrender Lyra Vale by sunrise, my wolf stirred impatiently. The council will begin a full territorial purge. The words hung in the air. Every wolf present understood exactly what that meant. Total war, total extermination. Rowan finished quietly. This is your final chance to avoid bloodshed. Silence stretched across the clearing. Then Darius looked at me. Well, your move, Alpha. I stepped forward slowly. Snow crunched beneath my boots. Rowan watched me carefully, waiting. The girl he remembered would have been nervous, unsure, broken by the weight of council authority. But that girl had died the night Iron Fang banished her. I stopped a few feet in front of him. Tell the Alpha Council something for me. Rowan frowned slightly. What? My wolf rose fully behind my eyes. Ancient power stirred in the forest around us, and when I spoke, my voice carried far beyond the clearing. Blackwood does not surrender its queen. The heart tree flared brightly behind me, silver light spilling across the snow. Rowan's eyes widened, because in that moment, he finally understood. The wolf Iron Fang had thrown away, had become something the Alpha Council could no longer control. And by sunrise, the Northern Territories would learn the same terrifying truth. Dawn came slowly to Blackwood Forest. A pale gray light crept through the ancient trees, spilling across the snow-covered ground like a quiet warning. The forest was awake long before the sun. Every wolf in Blackwood territory had taken their position. Warriors lined the outer ridges of the forest. Scouts moved silently through the trees. Hunters waited along hidden trails known only to the forgotten wolves. And at the heart of it all, I stood beneath the heart tree. The massive silver bark glowed faintly in the morning light, pulsing with ancient power. My wolf stirred calmly inside my chest. Not restless, not afraid. Ready. Darius approached from the training grounds, his heavy boots crunching through the snow. They're moving. I didn't turn. How many? More than 200. Mira joined us seconds later, brushing frost from her dark hair. They've spread across the eastern ridge. Her golden eyes flicked toward the distant tree line. They're preparing to push through the outer forest. I exhaled slowly. The Alpha Council had chosen war. Darius folded his arms. 3 packs moving together isn't something we see often. No, Mira muttered. It isn't. I turned toward them. What about Kale? Mira glanced toward the scouts gathering near the ridge. He's with the Iron Fang wolves. Darius nodded. But he's not leading the attack. My brow furrowed. Who is? Alpha Garrick of Stoneclaw. The name stirred faint recognition. Stoneclaw was one of the oldest council packs, brutal, disciplined, and fiercely loyal to council authority. They sent their strongest alpha, I said. Yes. Darius's expression darkened slightly, which means they're expecting resistance. A low horn echoed through the forest, not from Blackwood, from beyond the trees. The council army was announcing itself. Mira sighed. Well, that's subtle. Darius glanced toward the warriors gathering across the clearing. Positions. The command spread instantly through the pack. Wolves shifted into massive forms. Warriors grabbed weapons from the racks lining the outer wall. The quiet calm of dawn vanished. In its place came the controlled chaos of preparation. War. I stepped forward. Snow crunched softly beneath my boots. Bring Rowan. Mira raised an eyebrow. You're interrogating him now? Yes. She smirked faintly. I like the timing. Minutes later, Rowan was escorted into the clearing by 2 Blackwood warriors. His hands weren't bound, but the wolves beside him made it clear he wasn't leaving without permission. Rowan's gaze landed on me immediately. You're really doing this. His voice carried disbelief. Starting a war. I met his eyes calmly. I didn't start it. The council thinks you did. The council thought the Forgotten Wolves were extinct. Rowan hesitated. That was different. Was it? Silence stretched between us. Finally, I stepped closer. 5 years ago, you stood beside Kale when I was accused of treason. His jaw tightened. Yes. You read the charges yourself. Yes. And you believed them. Rowan's gaze flickered briefly toward the forest. I had no reason not to, he said firmly. The evidence was real, Lyra. I saw it myself. 3 patrol wolves attacked. Rogues seen crossing from where you'd been. A border meeting no one authorized. He shook his head slowly. Even if I had doubts at the time, and I did, the evidence outweighed them. That's the problem, I said quietly. Evidence can be arranged. Doubts should have been louder. Rowan's jaw worked. You're asking me to believe that Iron Fang, our own pack, conspired to destroy our alpha's mate. Yes, that's not a small accusation. No, I agreed. It isn't. Rowan's voice hardened slightly. You met rogues outside Iron Fang territory. Yes. And 3 Iron Fang patrols were ambushed that same night. Yes. The evidence pointed to you. I tilted my head slightly. No. The evidence pointed where someone wanted it to. Rowan frowned. What are you saying? I'm saying someone inside Iron Fang framed me. The words settled heavily in the clearing. Rowan shook his head slowly. That's impossible. Is it? You were the only one seen near the rogues. By who? He hesitated. The patrol scouts. Which ones? Rowan didn't answer immediately, because suddenly he understood what I was asking. Say their names, I pressed quietly. His eyes narrowed slightly. Why does it matter? Because 2 of those scouts died last winter. Rowan blinked. Yes. Rogue attack near the northern cliffs? Exactly. I stepped closer. And the 3rd one? Rowan's voice dropped. Captain Eldrick. My wolf stirred. There it was, the name. Darius glanced at me. You know him? Yes. Rowan frowned. Eldrick led the patrol that found the rogues. And he's also the one who reported seeing me meet them. Rowan's eyes darkened slightly. That's correct. I smiled faintly. Interesting. What? Because Eldrick is standing in the council army outside this forest? Rowan froze. That's impossible. He retired 2 years ago. Did he? The sound of distant war horns echoed again through the forest. The council army was advancing. Rowan stared at me. You're saying Eldrick lied. I'm saying Eldrick staged the entire accusation. His face paled slightly. But why? Darius answered calmly. Because someone wanted Lyra gone. Rowan's gaze shifted between us. You think the council planned this? Not the council, I said. Someone inside Ironfang. The realization hit him slowly. His eyes widened. No. Yes. Eldrick couldn't do that alone. No. My wolf's voice rumbled softly inside my mind. Hunter. Yes. Someone had hunted me, manipulated the evidence, turned my own pack against me. Rowan ran a hand through his hair. If this is true, it is. Then Cale rejected his mate because of a lie. Darius nodded. That's usually how tragedies begin. Another horn blast echoed through the forest, this time much closer. Mira ran into the clearing. They're entering the eastern ridge. Her voice was sharp with urgency. Stoneclaw wolves in the lead. Darius exhaled slowly. Right on schedule. Rowan looked between us. If you fight the council today... Today? Mira snorted. We've been fighting them for 5 centuries. Rowan turned back to me. You need to tell Cale. He'll find out. When? I looked toward the dark forest where the council army advanced. When the battle starts. Darius's smile was calm. Truth tends to reveal itself in the middle of chaos. Rowan swallowed hard. You're going to kill Eldrick? No. My wolf stirred again. Predator? No, I repeated softly. He's going to expose himself. The wind howled suddenly through the trees. Rowan stood in silence for a moment. Then he straightened slowly. I need to go back. He looked at the warriors holding his perimeter. I need to speak with Kyle before this begins. I studied him. Why? Rowan's dark eyes held mine. Because if what you're telling me is true, he deserves to know before a single wolf bleeds. I considered it for a long moment. Then I nodded. Let him pass. The warrior stepped aside. Rowan held my gaze one last second. I don't know if I believe you yet, but I owe it to Cale to ask the question. He turned and walked back into the gray morning forest. Mira watched him go. You just let the messenger return to the enemy. Yes. And you planted a seed on the way out. Darius chuckled quietly. Efficient. And from the ridge beyond the forest, the first wave of the Alpha Council army surged into Blackwood, hundreds of wolves crashing through the ancient woods, Stoneclaw warriors at the front, Red Hollow fighters spreading through the flanks, Ironfang wolves behind them, and somewhere among them, Captain Eldrick, the man who destroyed my life. My wolf rose fully inside me. Power surged through my veins like lightning. Darius glanced at me. Well, Alpha, looks like your war has arrived. I stepped forward. The heart tree flared behind me, silver light spilling across the forest. Then let's end it. The first clash came like thunder through the forest, a roar of wolves, the snap of branches, the pounding rhythm of hundreds of paws tearing through snow and frozen earth. Blackwood did not wait. The moment the council army crossed the ridge, the forgotten wolves struck. Massive gray and black forms burst from the trees, warriors who had trained for this moment their entire lives. Stoneclaw wolves led the charge. Their massive brown bodies slammed through the outer forest, jaws snapping as they met the first Blackwood defenders. The impact shook the ground. Teeth clashed. Claws tore. Snow exploded into the air as wolves collided in brutal combat. From the ridge above the clearing, I watched the battle unfold. Darius stood beside me, already in wolf form. His enormous black shape radiated quiet power. Mira crouched nearby with a group of warriors, waiting for my command. The air trembled with the sounds of war. Growls, howls, the sickening thud of bodies hitting frozen ground. Stoneclaw is pushing hard through the eastern line, Mira said. Her eyes tracked the chaos below. They're trying to break into the inner forest. Darius's wolf snarled softly. They expected rogues. His gaze flicked toward me. They didn't expect discipline. I inhaled slowly. My wolf surged beneath my skin. The forest itself seemed to pulse around me. Branches creaked. Snow fell from high limbs as if the trees were shifting to watch. Queen. The voice inside me was calm. Command them. I stepped forward. Below us, the battle raged between the trunks of ancient Blackwood trees. Blackwood warriors were holding the line, but barely. Stoneclaw wolves were relentless. Their alpha, Garrick, towered among them, a massive bronze wolf ripping through defenders with brutal strength. Now, Darius murmured. I nodded. My voice rose across the ridge. Second line forward. The wolves behind us shifted instantly. Dozens of Blackwood warriors launched down the slope like arrows. They slammed into Stoneclaw's flank. The battlefield shifted immediately. The council wolves staggered as fresh fighters crashed into their side. Mira grinned. That'll slow them down. But the war horns sounded again, deeper this time. Red, hollow wolves poured through the southern ridge. Their red-tinted coats flashed between the trees like wildfire. They're trying to surround us, Mira said. Darius shifted back into human form beside me. They're pushing the classic council formation. Break the center, collapse the flanks. I nodded. They think Blackwood fights like a normal pack. Darius smirked. They're about to learn differently. Another howl echoed through the trees. This one deeper, more commanding. My chest tightened. Iron Fang had entered the battle. Through the chaos below, silver-gray wolves emerged from the forest. Iron Fang warriors, disciplined, fast. At their center moved a massive silver wolf, Alpha Kale. Even from this distance, his presence was unmistakable. He wasn't charging blindly like Stoneclaw. He was watching, calculating. Mira followed my gaze. He's holding his pack back. He always did prefer strategy over brute force, I said quietly. Darius crossed his arms. Which means he's looking for something. For me. Yes. My wolf stirred again. Hunter. I focused on the battlefield below, through the shifting waves of wolves. I finally saw him. A gray wolf fighting near the Stoneclaw flank. Older, scarred, moving carefully through the chaos. Captain Eldrick. Even in wolf form, his movements were unmistakable. He wasn't charging. He was observing, watching, waiting, just like he had 5 years ago. My blood ran cold. There, Darius followed my gaze. Ah, the traitor. Mira's expression hardened. Want me to handle him? No. My wolf rose. Power surged through my veins like wildfire. I will. Before either of them could respond, I shifted. Bones cracked as my body expanded. Silver fur burst across my skin. The massive royal wolf emerged beneath the rising sun. Gasps rippled across the ridge. Even after 5 years, the sight of my wolf still stunned them. I leapt from the ridge. The forest rushed upward to meet me. My paws hit the battlefield with crushing force. Stone-claw wolves scattered as I landed among them. The sheer size of my wolf sent shock through the front lines. Several wolves hesitated, just long enough. Blackwood warriors surged forward. The line broke. Chaos exploded across the battlefield. I moved through it like a storm. Every step sent waves of fear through the council wolves, because they could feel it now. The ancient blood, the royal wolf, the power they had tried to erase centuries ago. A roar echoed across the forest. Garrick, the stone-claw alpha, charged toward me. His massive bronze body plowed through the battle, claws slashing, teeth snapping. He lunged. I met him head-on. Our bodies collided like crashing boulders. The impact shook the ground. Garrick snarled viciously, jaws snapping inches from my throat. But my wolf was faster, stronger. Royal wolves were built for war. I twisted beneath him, slamming my shoulder into his ribs. He staggered. The moment his balance broke, I struck. My claws raked across his flank. The surrounding wolves froze. Even Garrick hesitated, because the moment the impact landed, the forest responded. The blackwood trees shuddered. Their roots seemed to pulse beneath the earth. And suddenly, every wolf on the battlefield felt it. The heart tree's power. The forest itself was answering its queen. Garrick stepped back slowly, his eyes wide. You... His voice trembled slightly. You control the forest. My wolf's growl rolled through the clearing. Queen, before Garrick could recover. A new voice cut through the battlefield. Enough. The command echoed across the forest. Every wolf froze. Even the battle itself seemed to pause. Alpha Kyle stepped forward through the snow. His silver wolf shifted smoothly into human form. Blood streaked his arms from the fighting, but his golden eyes were fixed on one wolf, Captain Eldrick. The older wolf stiffened immediately. Kale's voice dropped into a dangerous growl. Explain something to me. The battlefield held its breath. Kale pointed directly at Eldrick. Why did Lyra say you framed her? The words hit like lightning. Every wolf nearby turned toward Eldrick. The old captain backed away slowly. That's ridiculous. Is it? Kale's eyes burned. You told me you saw her meeting rogues. I did. But she claims you staged the entire accusation. Eldrick's voice hardened. She's lying. Then explain something else. Kyle's gaze darkened. How did the rogues know the exact patrol routes that night? Silence fell, because suddenly, everyone realized something was wrong. Eldrick's wolf shifted nervously. You're questioning my loyalty? I'm questioning everything. Kale stepped closer. And I'm starting with you. The forest waited. The wolves waited. And for the first time in 5 years, the lie that destroyed my life was beginning to crack. The battlefield fell into a tense, unnatural silence. Wolves from every pack stood frozen in the snow, their eyes fixed on the two figures at the center of the clearing, Alpha Kyle and Captain Eldrick, the man who had once been one of Iron Fang's most trusted warriors. The wind swept through the blackwood trees above us, carrying the scent of frost across the battlefield. Kyle's golden eyes burned with quiet fury. Answer me, he said. Eldrick's wolf shifted uneasily before he stepped forward in human form. His gray hair clung damply to his temples. You're letting her poison your mind, Eldrick said sharply, gesturing toward me. That traitor manipulated you once before. My wolf growled low in my chest, but I didn't move. Kyle's gaze never left Eldrick. She claims you staged the rogue attack. Eldrick laughed harshly. That's absurd. Is it? Kale stepped closer. Then explain why those same rogues were seen entering Stoneclaw territory 3 days later. A ripple of tension passed through the surrounding wolves. Stoneclaw fighters exchanged uneasy glances. Eldric's expression flickered, just for a second. But Kale saw it. His voice dropped dangerously low. You told me those rogues died that night. They did. Then how did they appear again? Eldric's jaw tightened. You're grasping at shadows. No, Kyle said. I'm following a trail. He gestured toward the battlefield around us. And it leads straight to you. Stoneclaw's Alpha Garrick stepped forward slowly, his bronze wolf shifting into human form. This is not the time for internal pack disputes, he growled. The council declared war. Darius appeared beside me, crossing his arms lazily. And yet, here we are. Garrick glared at him. You're meddling in council territory. Darius shrugged. You invaded my forest. Garrick's eyes shifted to me. And this is the wolf you're protecting. His gaze was cold. An exile accused of treason. I stepped forward slowly. Snow crunched beneath my paws as my massive silver wolf approached the circle of alphas. Gasps rippled through the council warriors. Even Garrick stiffened slightly. Royal wolves had that effect. I shifted smoothly into human form. The cold air barely touched my skin now. 5 years of Blackwood had changed me. My voice carried clearly across the battlefield. You're still repeating the same lie, Eldric sneered. You expect us to believe you instead? No. I looked directly at Kyle. I expect the truth to speak for itself. Kyle's gaze held mine for several long seconds. Then he turned slowly back to Eldric. One last time. Tell me the truth. Eldric's eyes darkened. I already have. No, Kale replied quietly. You haven't. His voice rose slightly, carrying across the battlefield. You said you saw Lyra meeting rogues. Yes. You said those rogues attacked our patrols. Yes. You said she betrayed Ironfang. Eldric nodded stiffly. I did. Kale's golden eyes burned. Then explain something to me. He stepped closer. Why did those rogues carry Stoneclaw weapons? The clearing exploded into shocked murmurs. Garrick's head snapped toward Eldric. What? Eldric froze. For a moment, no one moved. Then Kale spoke again. I examined the weapons after the attack. They weren't rogue blades. They were Stoneclaw forged. All eyes turned toward Garrick. The Stoneclaw Alpha's expression twisted with anger. You're accusing my pack of aiding rogues? Kyle shook his head slowly. No. I'm accusing someone of stealing your weapons. His gaze returned to Eldric, and planting them at the crime scene. Eldric's face had gone pale. You're imagining things? Am I? Kale's voice hardened. Because I also discovered something else. He turned slightly, gesturing towards the Ironfang warriors behind him. Bring him. 2 wolves dragged a wounded figure forward, a rogue. His arm was bound tightly with cloth stained dark. The rogue's eyes darted around wildly as he was shoved into the center of the clearing. Eldric stiffened. Kyle spoke calmly. This rogue was captured 2 nights ago. He survived the attack you claimed killed them all. The rogue swallowed nervously. Kyle crouched beside him. Tell them what you told me. The rogue's voice shook. We were hired. A ripple of shock spread through the wolves. By who? Garrick demanded. The rogue pointed a trembling finger directly at Eldric. The forest went silent, utterly silent. Eldric's face twisted with rage. That's a lie. But the rogue kept speaking. He paid us to attack Ironfang patrols. to make it look like an inside betrayal, to frame the alpha's mate. My wolf growled softly. Kyle stood slowly, his golden eyes locked onto Eldrick. You destroyed your own pack's Luna. Eldrick's voice turned desperate. She was weak. The outburst echoed across the clearing. She was soft, unfit to rule beside you. He pointed toward me. Look at her now. She's leading the enemy. His voice cracked, not with sorrow, but with something older. Conviction. I did what was necessary to protect this pack's future. Her bloodline wasn't just a risk to you, Kale. It was a risk to the entire Northern Order. The elders of the Old Council warned me years ago. The royal blood of Blackwood was rising again. If it bonded with an Iron Fang Alpha, it would shift the balance of power across every territory. I couldn't allow that. His eyes burned with the certainty of a man who still believed he was right. You would have realized it eventually. A Luna who controls forests, who commands forgotten wolves, who bends ancient power. That is not a mate. That is a threat. Silence fell across the clearing, because for one cold moment, every wolf understood. Eldrick hadn't acted from jealousy. He hadn't acted from simple malice. He had acted from fear, the oldest and most dangerous reason of all. Kale's wolf surged beneath his skin. The air around him vibrated with fury. You lied to me. Eldrick backed away slowly. I saved the pack. You forced her into the enemy's arms. Eldrick's breathing turned ragged. The pack was never in danger from me. Kale's voice was ice. You took 5 years from her. His voice was low, deadly, and from me. Eldrick's eyes widened. Kale. The silver wolf shifted. Kale lunged. The impact knocked the older wolf into the snow. Gasps erupted from every pack. Eldrick struggled beneath him. You can't do this. Kale's jaws hovered inches from his throat. You betrayed Iron Fang. His voice echoed through the clearing. You betrayed your alpha. Eldrick's eyes darted desperately around the battlefield. Stoneclaw, he shouted. Red Hollow, help me. But no one moved, because now they understood. The entire war had started from a lie. Kale's gaze shifted slowly to me. For the first time in 5 years, there was no anger in his eyes, only regret. You were innocent. I held his gaze calmly. Yes. Silence stretched across the battlefield. Then Kale turned back to Eldrick. You took 5 years from her. His voice was low, deadly. And from me. Eldrick's eyes widened. Kale? The silver wolf's jaws snapped shut, and the man who destroyed my life fell silent forever. The clearing remained frozen, because in that moment, the truth had finally been revealed, and the war that followed was about to change everything. For several seconds after Eldrick's body fell into the snow, no one moved. The battlefield stood frozen beneath the pale winter sky. Hundreds of wolves watched in stunned silence as Alpha Kale slowly stepped back from the fallen captain. His silver wolf form trembled slightly, not from weakness, from the weight of what he had just learned. 5 years. 5 years built on a lie. 5 years spent believing the woman he loved had betrayed him. Kyle shifted back into human form. His golden eyes lifted slowly and settled on me. The battlefield faded away in that moment. All the wolves, all the war, none of it mattered. Only the truth between us. You were innocent. His voice was quieter now, not the commanding tone of an alpha, just a man who had finally realized how badly he had been wrong. Yes, I said calmly. He swallowed. For a moment it looked like he might say something else, but the silence shattered before he could. Alpha Garrick's furious voice cut through the clearing. This changes nothing. The Stoneclaw Alpha stepped forward, his bronze wolf bristling with anger. His gaze moved from Eldric's body to me with cold calculation. One dead traitor doesn't end this. Whatever Eldric's reasons were, they are not the Council's reasons. Cale turned toward him slowly. My mate was framed. Garrick's expression didn't soften. Yes, that is unfortunate. His voice hardened into stone, but the Council's case against Blackwood was never solely about treason. He gestured at the ancient forest around us. Blackwood is an unsanctioned sovereign power operating outside Council law. A pact that answers to no one. That holds ancient territory the Council has not recognized in 5 centuries. That threat is real regardless of Eldric's crimes. He looked directly at me. You are not an exile anymore. You are an alpha who commands forces that just fought the Council to a standstill. That is the threat, not a treason charge. Darius chuckled beside me. At least he's honest. Garrick's lip curled. I am always honest. The Council will never recognize Blackwood as sovereign land. Not while I lead Stoneclaw. He shifted again. The massive bronze wolf exploded forward. His warriors followed instantly. Stoneclaw wolves surged across the battlefield. Red Hollow fighters joined them. The Council army moved as one. War had returned. But this time, Blackwood was ready. Hold the lines, Mira shouted. The forgotten wolves launched forward. Gray and black bodies crashed into the advancing Council fighters. Teeth clashed. Claws tore through fur. The forest erupted back into chaos. Cale didn't move. He stood frozen for 1 heartbeat longer. Then he looked at me again. I never meant to destroy you. The words were raw, painfully honest. You did, I said quietly. He nodded slowly. Yes. The honesty in that answer surprised me. Then his gaze hardened. But I won't let them destroy you again. Before I could respond, Cale shifted. The massive silver wolf lunged straight into the advancing Stoneclaw ranks. Ironfang warriors followed instantly, their formation slamming into the Council lines from the side. The battlefield shifted again. Stoneclaw wolves suddenly found themselves fighting 2 packs instead of 1. Mira blinked. Well, that's new. Darius chuckled. Looks like Ironfang just changed sides. The battle roared through the forest, but something else was rising beneath it. The heart tree. Behind us, the heart tree's silver glow intensified. Not explosively, not yet, but steadily, like a breath drawn before a roar. The ancient bark pulsed with deep light that had no source in the winter sky. The wolves closest to the tree glanced back at it uneasily. Even the Stoneclaw fighters pushing against the western line paused for a fraction of a second. Something old was waking, something that had been patient for a very long time. The ground beneath the battlefield hummed faintly, not violently, not yet, just enough for every wolf present to feel it through their paws. A warning, a promise. My wolf lifted her head inside me. Queen. I stepped forward. The battlefield seemed to slow. The wolves around me felt it instantly, the pull of something ancient, something older than the Alpha Council. I closed my eyes and reached out. The forest answered, not with chaos, with recognition. The heart tree's glow deepened behind me. Branches above the battlefield shifted slowly in windless air, and every wolf who looked toward the forest center saw the same thing. A woman standing still in the snow, silver light gathering around her like a crown, power waiting to be released. Garrick's furious howl echoed through the trees. Hold the line. But the wolves nearest the heart tree were already stepping back, because the forest was watching them, and it did not look patient anymore. The full awakening was one breath away. Snow and scattered frost covered the forest floor. The battle raged beneath the towering Blackwood trees as wolves clashed in waves across the frozen clearing. But the moment I released the power the forest had been waiting to give me, everything changed. Massive roots tore through the ground like living serpents. Ancient branches twisted downward, blocking charges and breaking formations. Stoneclaw wolves stumbled as the battlefield itself turned against them. The Blackwood forest was no longer just terrain. It had become a weapon. Alpha Garrick's furious roar echoed through the chaos. Hold the line. But the council army was already breaking. Red Hollow fighters were forced back by the sudden walls of twisting roots. Stoneclaw warriors struggled to regroup as the forest separated their formation, and Ironfang wolves surged forward through the opening. Kyle's massive silver wolf slammed into the Stoneclaw front line. His jaws snapped with brutal precision as he drove Garrick's warriors backward. The council had expected to crush a rogue pack. Instead, they had walked into the heart of a living kingdom. From the center of the battlefield, I felt the forest breathing beneath my feet. The ancient power of Blackwood pulsed through every root and branch. My wolf stood tall inside my mind. Queen. Yes. I stepped forward through the chaos. Wherever I walked, the wolves parted. Blackwood warriors bowed their heads as I passed, not out of fear, out of loyalty. Darius appeared beside me, his dark wolf shifting smoothly back into human form. Well, he said, watching the battlefield with amusement. That escalated beautifully. Mira landed beside us seconds later, her breathing steady despite the fight. Stoneclaw is collapsing. Her eyes scanned the clearing. Red Hollow is already pulling back. Darius nodded. They're realizing what they walked into. Across the battlefield, Garrick struggled to hold his ground. The massive bronze wolf snarled as Ironfang and Blackwood warriors pushed him toward the ridge. His eyes flicked toward the ancient trees towering above the clearing. Fear flashed across his face. "You command the forest," he growled. My voice carried clearly through the battlefield. No. The roots twisted again beneath the snow. This forest commands itself. The ancient Blackwood trees groaned softly, as if agreeing. Garrick backed away slowly. "You think this makes you queen?" Darius chuckled. "She already is." The Stoneclaw Alpha bared his teeth. "The council will never recognize." A sudden crack split the air. One of the massive roots rose between us, forcing him to retreat another step. Garrick realized it then. This battle was lost. He lifted his head and howled. The signal carried across the battlefield. Stoneclaw wolves began pulling back. Red Hollow fighters retreated toward the ridge. The council army was withdrawing. Mira exhaled. "Well, that's satisfying." Darius grinned. "They'll be telling stories about this battle for centuries." Across the clearing, Kale's silver wolf stood watching. When the last of the Stoneclaw wolves disappeared into the forest, he shifted slowly back into human form. Ironfang warriors gathered behind him, but they didn't look like enemies anymore. They looked uncertain. Their alpha walked toward me across the quiet battlefield. Snow crunched beneath his boots. His eyes held only one emotion: regret. When he stopped a few feet away, the forest fell silent again. Even the wolves seemed to understand the moment. Kyle's voice was rough. "I was wrong." The words carried across the clearing. No alpha liked admitting that, especially not in front of two packs. But he continued anyway. "I rejected my mate because of a lie." His golden eyes lifted to meet mine, and I spent 5 years believing it. I studied him quietly. The proud alpha I once loved still stood in front of me, but something about him had changed. The arrogance was gone, replaced by something heavier, responsibility. "You did what you believed was right," I said calmly. His jaw tightened. "No, I trusted the wrong wolf." The truth settled heavily between us. 5 years, lost because one man chose fear over loyalty. Kyle glanced around the clearing, at the Blackwood warriors, at the ancient forest, at the heart tree glowing behind me. "You built something extraordinary here. Yes, you became an alpha." My wolf stirred proudly. "Queen." He noticed the shift in my eyes. "More than that," he said quietly. "Didn't you?" Darius chuckled from behind me. "Told you he'd figure it out." Kale took a slow breath. "The Alpha Council will return." "Yes, but next time." He looked at the battlefield where Stoneclaw had retreated. "They'll come with respect." Mira raised an eyebrow. "That's optimistic." Kale shook his head. "No. They've just witnessed something none of them expected." His gaze returned to me. The return of the royal bloodline. Silence followed. Then Kyle did something no one in the clearing expected. He lowered his head slightly. Not fully, but enough. An alpha's acknowledgement. "My pack will not stand against Blackwood again." A ripple of surprise spread through the wolves. Darius whistled softly. "Well, that's a development." Kale straightened slowly. "Our territories will remain separate, but Iron Fang will recognize Blackwood as sovereign land." Mira looked impressed. "Did the council authorize that?" Kyle's lips curved faintly. "They will." The quiet confidence in his voice carried the weight of an alpha who had made his decision. Then he turned back to me. "You deserved better than what I gave you." Maybe once those words would have broken my heart. But now, they only felt like closure. "I found what I needed," I said. My gaze moved across the forest around us, the ancient trees, the wolves who stood beside me, the pack that had chosen me. Keel followed my gaze. "Yes," he said softly. "You did." For a moment we simply stood there. Two wolves who once shared a destiny, now walking different paths. Then Kale stepped back. "I won't ask you to return." My wolf stirred quietly. "Queen." He nodded once. "As you wish." Kyle turned toward his warriors. "Iron Fang." His voice carried across the clearing. "We're leaving." The wolves gathered behind him. Within minutes, they disappeared into the forest. The battlefield slowly fell quiet. Snow began falling again, soft, peaceful. Darius stretched his arms lazily. "Well, that was fun." Mira laughed softly. "Fun isn't the word I'd use." Blackwood warriors began returning to the clearing. Their eyes shone with pride. Victory, but also something deeper. Hope. Darius stepped beside me again. "You realize what just happened?" "Yes. The Alpha Council tried to erase your bloodline once." His scarred face broke into a grin. "And you just announced its return to the entire North." My wolf stood tall inside me. "Queen." The heart tree pulsed gently behind us. Its silver glow spread through the ancient forest. Blackwood had awakened, not as a hidden refuge, but as a kingdom. And at its center stood the wolf the world had once cast aside, the Queen of Blackwood Forest.